we are gonna introduce the board members, but we're gonna put that a little later because some of them have not here yet. We're trying to at least let some more get in, and not, whenever we get to a point if they're not here, we'll go ahead and do it. But right now, I'm gonna go ahead and read the purpose of Jonesville Community Connect. And it says, Jonesville Community Connect is working to preserve and enrich the community so descendants and visitors can continue to appreciate the hard work to which our ancestors dedicated their lives for. And so that's the purpose of everything we're doing. And like we said, we started 2 or 3 years ago, this Jonesville Community Connect. We know some things don't go as quick as we wanted sometimes, but when you're dealing like this, it takes time in some things, but we have got a lot of things accomplished in the 2 or 3 years, and with your help, we're gonna still continue to keep accomplishing things. So, nothing else, nothing to do. Laura, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, we'll get Laura started with you.
I was gonna ask Mike if he was gonna be here to the end, because I know you and you'll be here to the end, okay? Okay, because I'm gonna talk, I'm trying to figure out how to flip my own phone. I'm gonna talk about the grant that we have. You hold it to me, just record what I'm doing. Just the grant information, and then at the end, I think you and Derek may have been talking back and forth, and you guys can tell us what you've been talking about and whatever you need to know to help us out. But to talk about the grant, you just point it towards me, yeah. There's an organization in Virginia, and this is not about being annexed into Roseville. It's not about anything but the organization in Virginia called OPI. We applied for a grant, and they gave us $11,500 to say, we want you to tell your story, of your ancestors. We talked about the Hartsfield family, but we did Betty's not here right now, Betty Murchison. Derek had applied in 25, and then we applied again in 26. Betty really worked hard with us and just say, tell the story. I was trying to be technical. You don't have to be technical, just tell the story. And OPI is an organization that helps Black ancestors. I was in a meeting not too long ago where there were, people from Texas and Louisiana, Tennessee. One group was gonna redo their daddy's piccolo joint because they wanted to hear that story of the enslaved people, what they went through. So that's what the OPI organization is about, giving money to people to preserve their legacy. So I worked on the grant along with Betty Murchison and Guy, as well as Derek. I would send it out. I sent it to Laverne at one point, like, can y'all review this as we submit this grant to the board? So I am considered the project lead, and then Guy is the project supervisor. Betty Murchison is our project consultant. And I'm always calling Betty, like, can we do this? Can we say this? The grant description is it's descendant-led. And if you'll notice, when Guy introduced the board in just a few minutes, you'll see that Guy and myself are the only descendant-led people descendants on the committee. And each deliverable has to be descendant-led. It has to be led by somebody from the family. And I'll say, I know we have some other descendants in here. You'll feel free to lead, but it has to be descendant-led, and it's all about preserving. Centered around the historic Jonesville community. You'll see one of the deliverables is to make it a historic community. It's rooted in the legacy of John Henry and Maddie Walker Hartsfield. Again, it's not about Roseville, annexing into Roseville. It's not about Joneses. It's not about this or that. It's just about John Henry and Maddie Walker Hartsfield and their descendants. And it documents one of the region's longstanding Black land-owning communities established following emancipation. And this community, as it says, is anchored by family homes. It's anchored by churches, farmland, historic gathering spaces, and community landmarks connected to the Hartsfield family. And it just talks about honoring that legacy. It's what this organization is giving us money to say, honor your legacy. And my pastor used to always say, it's a sad dog that don't wag its own tail. So we want to honor our legacy. And then we're going to center that around stewardship, family memory, land preservation. It supports ongoing efforts, again, just to and I want to read all this, to protect the Black cultural heritage through preservation. Our grant is about storytelling. There are a lot of different areas that you can apply for, but we're about storytelling, telling our story. And I know there's a lot of people, and we want to do that before our people, and I hate to say it this way, die out. We want to be able to tell the story. And I don't have any, anybody to tell. When we get together, we talk about stories all the time, so we want to tell the story. The project strengthens intergenerational connections while ensuring the legacy of Jonesville's founding families remain visible and accessible for future generations. Melanie, my daughter, just moved back, and I tell her I told her when they first moved back, I said, I'm so glad y'all are here in Jonesville, but I wish you had the legacy of Do Baby Store, like we had that legacy. I wish you had that. So we want future generations to be able to have something to hold on to. Some of the grant deliverables: install community signage. I won't get into detail of each one of these, it's not gonna be long. Install community signage. They want us to share a copy of the National Register nomination paperwork. Show that you're registering to be an historic community. They want us to update a community landmark to establish a JCC, Jonesville Community Connect museum, a community museum. They want us to do that, have a museum. They want us to document community preservation events. They want us to say, how are you getting this information from your people? So let me go into detail of each one. Install a community sign. I don't know if this is the way it'll look. I just kind of pulled a sign off of Google, and to say, and we have to work with DOT to say, can we put a temporary sign here, one on this end, one on that end, work with DOT? Can we go ahead and install it now? What does it need to look like? But they're saying, go ahead and put a community sign. This is what the people in OPI is saying, to say, we're not a Black historic community yet, but we're applying for that. So that's one of our deliverables that we have to do. And again, it have to be descendant led. So we'll need somebody to do some legwork and say, let's go to DOT. Let's see what we need to do to get these signs installed. Even the developers that are coming at the end, they had said that they would give us a sign. So, I don't know if we wait on that. Well, we can't wait on that. We have to put something in place for that. The second deliverable is share a copy of the National Register nomination paperwork. Show that you've applied to be a Black historic community. And if you just show that, it's not saying go ahead and get it approved. Show that you've done that. And then there's some sites on our website, if you've ever been to our website, that's there to help us do that. Yolanda Taylor is the law firm that has been helping us all along. Pro bono, been helping us with different things that we need to do to stay afloat with our nonprofit board. She's been helping that. And then our JCC consultant, who was Betty Murchison. Betty is also has some valuable information to help us become nationally historic. We've been working with, and everybody knows Derek, we've been working with Derek as well. So we have to share that paperwork that we're applying for that. And then the third deliverable, update a community landmark to establish a community museum. They were so, I don't know if you guys have seen the video that we did, the guy and I did with the town of Roseville, the mayor of town of Roseville, but the lady with OPI was so excited about that video, because we talked about all of Jonesville, all the different landmarks, the churches, we talked about farmland, we talked about growing up in Jonesville. So they want us to take that and take one of our community landmarks. There are 3 that I know of, that's why I wish more people were here, that we know of that's left. Of course, you have the Jeffrey's Candy Store, which is Kelly's old place, right here. Everybody know what that is? But it's being rented, or it's being used by somebody else, so we can't use that building. Then we have Do Baby's Candy Store and Dry Cleaners. We had thought, yeah, that'd be a really nice building. It's small, it'd be really nice. And then we thought, you know what? We want people to come to this building, right? And we don't want to tie up their yard. We don't want cars parking in their yard and just taking over, because we're hoping people will come. And then we have Jonesville Pool Room. And I think, and what's so special about that, the Jonesville Pool Room, is when I approached Dwayne's, that family, and I said, we're looking for a community landmark in Jonesville. I'm gonna talk about the budget in just a few minutes. They've given us some money to update one of our landmarks in Jonesville to do a community museum. And Dwayne said, well, we were already looking at updating the pool room to make it a community building where people can have meetings, people can have events. And then we'll give y'all a wall or room to display the Hartsfield family legacy. So I just thought that was special.
Yes.
So we're looking at using the pool room as they update it to give us the space. We're working on what's the word I'm looking for? Working on a LLC. They're working on LLC and the agreement. The lease agreement. Like, what does that look like? What does that need to look like? So we've been talking to Betty, and we'll talk more and more with the grant people, but we're still working out details on that. And Dwayne, I don't know if you have anything since we've talked about what that's gonna look like.
Yeah, we're ready to submit the paperwork for the LLC.
Okay.
And so we've been in talks with my family, and we are already in agreement that this is, something that we can do, we can provide to the community.
Yeah. I thought it was special.
It is.
I thought it was special. So, but if I'm missing some landmarks, y'all let me know. But we're gonna move forward with that as we're moving forward. And then we have to document, because in that landmark has to be pictures of the sisters, artifacts from the sisters. Do we have their Bibles? Do we have any kind of journals from the sisters? Do we have any pictures from them? Do we have any pictures of Grandma Matt's house? Do we have any family reunion pictures? We do want to, display all of the sisters. And not just the ones that lived in Jonesville, but we want to display all the sisters and brothers, and then just stuff. And I can think of 1,000 things that I would love to put in there. This document community preservation events, that's Universal Church of Deliverance. The picture that you see there, I don't know if you guys can see, I'm standing right in front of y'all the whole time. I'm so sorry. I don't know if you guys recognize that's Universal Church of Deliverance and Prayer. And what I asked AI to do is to put some people in the yard, because this is what we have to do. We have to have a cookout. When I say cookout, we have to provide events where people can bring stuff. And then we may have some contests. Who brings the most pictures? We'll give you a prize. And because the grant is paying for the food, they'll pay for the food and for all the activities that we'll do to get people to come and bring the events, bring the artifacts and the pictures. So that's kind of a picture. That's kind of an example of what we're hoping something will look like one day where people are bringing stuff. So what they've done, they gave us $2,000 to purchase and install a community sign. They gave us $500 to get in a consultant to help us with the National Register nomination. They gave us $8,000 to update the community landmark that supports the community museum. $1,000 to document our community preservation events. That's the food and the gifts, if we give out gifts and things like that. And some of the requirements, it must be descendant-led. Each event must be descendant-led. And then we gotta provide us a 6-month report out, which our first report out will be in December of this year, to let them know what we're doing, where we are on that. I'm gonna pause right here, just see what questions you have. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Is there a deadline on when the money must be spent for?
It has to be spent by December 2027. December 2027. Yeah, I think we have our first check somewhere. We gotta find that. I think they've sent it out. I gotta check. But they're giving it to us in increments. We just gotta get the stuff. I think that's the biggest part, is the museum. Getting I don't know if it's a wall or a room or just, and I like the idea of it being a meeting place that people can go and have meetings, because then people will go in and look at it.
Mm-hmm.
People will go in and look at it. Any other?
Where would you know about the sign that's about putting it in?
We gotta, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, I think we gotta work with DOT to see what they should look like, or where we can put it.
That's correct. I think we gotta work with DOT and see, like you said, and see what will be feasible, for them, or how should it look, and where how far from the road.
And some some kind of planning, I think, to say,
You also need to, figure out with the property owners, like, you know, what property owners and where it's gonna be, because it's gonna be, if it's gonna be at the one, pool room, you know, then.
not this
Not
sign,
that side.
not this sign, this sign is north and south.
Okay, so that, yeah, so you still have to find the property owners and figure out who will permit you to put it on their property. And then DOT will probably tell you, whether there's a size restriction or
Right.
how far off of the road it has to be because of the easements that come with the roadways. But the bigger thing is getting permission from the property owners to put it on there.
Okay, that's a good question, thank you.
What is considered Jonesville? I mean, from what point to what point?
Well, it's not really formally incorporated, it's really just kind of a label, but it's basically just we're at the edge of the tree line on the north side, basically down to the southern end of the bridge is what, just basically where all you guys live. There's no real formal boundary for it, so it's just really a community based on property that you all own.
And so the property from the tree line down to the bridge, that's owned by, that property is owned by people in the community.
Well, most of it is. I think there's 5 or 6 pieces of property that are not owned by community members or descendants. There might be a few more than that, but still, they don't have to be descendants. They just have to agree that to put whatever kind of sign you decide to put there. And depending on what conversation you have with them, you know, it probably makes sense that you volunteer to maintain the landscaping in that particular area, and you know. But it's just a matter of figuring out what kind of sign you want, you know, whether it's just a single kind of brick column with a metal bar with it, or something that she showed. It depends on the cost and the size of the footprint. And as long as the homeowner or the property owner is willing to do that, then, you know. It might be a situation where, based on who owns the properties, the first person on the, like coming from the bypass, on the right-hand side is probably where you want one sign, but the first property owner might not want it, so it might be the second property owner that actually puts it up. So it might not be perfect, but as long as you get a property owner to put something up, then, you know.
And it may be something that we have to do temporary,
Right,
you know,
right.
and then redo it later. Good question. Any other questions?
Since Jonesville Road extends into Roseville, I know that's probably not a descendant property. We connect to Main Street with Roseville, kind of help with the sign to say, hey, going this way is a historic community.
I think any idea is a fair question to ask, you know, I mean, I think anything, Roseville's got a lot of signage going on, and if they have any interest in being their own proud city and their own proud town, then they should absolutely be willing to put something like that up there, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, the road starts there as Jonesville Road at 401, right, and ends at Mitchell Mill.
The label of Jonesville Road starts all the way up at Main Street
Right.
in Roseville, correct, yes, so State Route 2226. From there to Mitchell Mill is, yeah, that's Jonesville Road, correct, and then it switches to Peoples. But I think that's a great idea to have a conversation with the town of Roseville, and that could be part of the cost that, you know, you can say, hey, we'll go 50-50, if you put the sign up, we'll pay for half of it, because we have a budget through this grant to do that, and then it might just be a metal sign, it might not. I did ask the developer of the Walbrook community and the Walbrook Publix and all them, that kind of a sign will probably cost about $10,000 in itself. So it might just be a kind of fairly basic metal sign, but like you said, a temporary, if that's the temporary solution, that's a temporary solution, but it still identifies a community and makes sure people flying off of the bypass are aware that this is a residential community and not just a glorified exit to Mitchell Mill Road, you know? So, yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions? I guess I should ask, anyone wanna lead this deliverable? I'll give you guys time to think about it, and I may be reaching out to some people about, cause they have to be descendant led. Working with DOT.
Got to talk to Roseville, the town of Roseville and DOT.
Probably,
Yeah.
probably a lot of
Have somebody
activity.
go to Roseville, talk to them and talk to DOT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Any questions about the paperwork for becoming, historic black community? Any questions about that? Any questions about, the community museum?
Sound like it's in a good spot. And its own parking area, that's for sure.
Parking area? Any thoughts behind that? Anybody else? Any ideas around documenting, community preservation events? And again, these are events that we have to put on, cookouts. I know Corinne's gonna be having, homecoming soon, coming home, bring stuff. We can check with the other churches to see if they have things going on and, 'cause I love the idea there's a church in every, area. So we wanna document these events, we gotta document them. Again, this is our budget. I don't have anything else, if everybody's cool and good, we'll keep you updated on, the progress as we work through this grant, we'll keep you updated on that.
So you got different amounts that the budget is broken down with?
Mhm.
Like Laura was saying, one of our biggest problems has been probably getting the history and getting people to respond back with information. If you have something, please, we need to start, we started, doing some with family unions and trying to get people, I think they interviewed a couple of people, we do have that. So that's stuff we can use in the museum, that's stuff we can use, in this, the last reservation thing. We need to make sure we get people to start responding with information that you have. You'd be surprised what we good for the landmark, just like we got an old picture of the, Man Spears house. Just that picture in
Yeah.
itself
We'd love it, I bet.
would be great. And then the pictures of old pictures that you have in the neighborhood, or what happened in the neighborhood back then, the old cars, all that stuff is important. So those things that you run across, we're really looking for that. We need that information.
Do you have any pictures of y'all at the cucumber market?
Yeah.
And if there's any concern about preservation of those
Yeah.
actual things too, I mean, there's nothing wrong with bringing them to a place like this and having us take pictures of them and then returning the hard copies and the original asset back to you guys. We can do this all digitally, right? So that we can take everything digitally and you can keep everything. So it's not like you're forfeiting
Yeah.
these things to the organization, right? So that's another kind of important aspect about this. We can digitize all this stuff and then give it back to you, right? So we're not trying to take anything away from you. It's just very, as you can tell, it's part of why the grant was awarded, and it's an important part of the legacy, obviously. So it'd be very helpful to have that information collected.
And whoever decides to lead that effort, it may be planning an event as well as, what's the process that we'll use to collect it. So that's part of it as well.
Gift certificates to everybody's favorite place.
We'll have some gifts, yeah. So I don't have anything else about the grants.
I'm gonna go ahead now and introduce the board members that are here, okay? Cause we need to know, for those, a lot of people, I know this is your first time being in the meeting, and kinda wanna let you know the board members. And so I'm Guy Jones, I'm the chair. Richard Dowdy, Richard is the vice chair. Everybody, Richard right there. Lori Moss is the secretary. Katina Kane is our treasurer. Marie Jarvis, she's not here. Marie's on the board. Alicia Lewis, right here, she's on the board. And Derek Verstegen.